Rosa DeLauro has gone off the rails again.
You're here because you need money from us, so halt for the second and wait for the questions and answer the questions.
Well, I answered your question,
No, you
and
didn't.
you didn't like my answer.
During a House hearing, Rosa was outright yelling at Lee Zeldin, refusing to let him answer the simplest questions, until the chair finally stepped in and gave him the floor, which only led to even more meltdowns. And today, we're covering it all. So if you enjoy content that cuts through the noise, hit that subscribe button and let's jump right into it.
Climate change. Real, happening all around us. That's a quote, by the way. Climate change is real and happening all around us. That is directly from EPA's website. Imagine my shock when I learned that it hasn't been scrubbed from the website. Although I fully expect to check in about a week and maybe it will be taken down. I guess we'll see whether or not that's the case. I'm shocked because the science tells us that climate change is real and accelerating. Really, the effects and the impact of climate change are real. I don't know, you probably did see the report on Antarctica and the glaciers and melting and all this. It was an extraordinary documentary over this past weekend. When climate change is flooding our streets, poisoning our air, driving up healthcare and disaster costs, how can the EPA justify abandoning that duty to protect Americans to appease polluters under the false flag of economic growth?
We'll get to Lee's response in a minute, but I want to correct some of the things Rosa said here because they're simply outlandish. The way she framed it, you'd think the right outright rejects climate change, which misses the point entirely. The real argument is about avoiding extreme policies that crush everyday Americans while still working towards practical environmental goals. And this isn't coming from the void. Time and time again, aggressive green policies have raised costs, strained energy access, and made daily life harder for working people. So the biggest issue is balance, something many of these proposals ignore entirely. But once Lee finally tried answering, Rosa clearly didn't like where it was going, leading to a heated back and forth.
Following the law, Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, where does it say anything about fighting global climate change? Loper Bright, Supreme Court case, you familiar with it?
No, I maybe others are. I'm not, but let me ask.
But that's really important. As a member of Congress, Loper Bright says that we as an agency don't have the authority to get creative if Section 202 of the Clean Air Act
No, but you don't have, excuse me, you do not have the right to say climate change does not exist, that it's a hoax, and that's where this administration is coming from.
I understand you're upset that you don't know what Loper Bright is. Do you know what the major policies doctrine is?
I'm upset because
you know what the major policies doctrine is?
You know what, let me just
You're a
say
member
this
of
to
Congress. You should know.
Well, you have moved from someone who defended the environment to all of a sudden
I'm very defensive about not knowing the two biggest landmark Supreme Court cases of the last year with regards to your question.
You are very defensive about changing your policy and your positions with regard to the environment. Okay. Now, you just tell me.
Do you want me to tell you what the two biggest Supreme Court cases are of the last few years?
This is what I want you
Michigan
to tell
versus
me.
EPA.
Whoa.
West Virginia versus EPA.
You know, you're here because you need money from us. So halt for the second.
That was a whole lot of shouting. It's interesting how she basically said, you don't have the right to think differently. And this is coming from the same side that constantly waves that free speech banner whenever a late night host gets their show canceled. What makes it worse is that Lee was actually pointing to real legal precedent. You see, in Loper Bright, the Supreme Court made it clear that federal agencies do not get to endlessly stretch laws however they want. That responsibility falls to the courts. And when you look at many aggressive green policies, a lot of them were built through broad interpretations of older legislation. The EPA's 2009 move on emissions is one major example, but Rosa isn't one to let facts get in her way, especially if they don't align with her worldview. So the shouting just kept going.
I answered your question,
and you
didn't like my answer because you don't know what Loper Bright is,
question.
because you don't know what the major policies doctrine is,
Chairman,
because you're asking me about Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, and you don't read it. You don't know what it says.
It says the Appropriations Committee.
Oh,
you come here.
You care about science? Now you're threatening to defund it?
Oh my God! No, you don't fund
because
science.
You don't know what Loper Bright is. Because you don't know what the major policies doctrine is. Your message to our folks at the EPA is that you want to defund us.
I don't have to listen to this BS.
I made up Michigan versus EPA.
Whoa is right. What are you doing? Why are you helping polluters?
we're not going to get any very far by talking on top of each other so that no one can hear. If you ask a question, you have to give the witness an
I
opportunity
do not have
to
to have
respond.
the witness attack me. Not when he's
You
here
have
as
to
a
give the
supplicant
witness a chance
for federal
to
resources.
answer the question.
This little clip really sums up what is wrong with politics right now. Everyone is eager to shout, but very few are willing to actually listen. The thing is, Lee stayed calm and focused on explaining what his agency was actually doing. On the other hand, Rosa fully leaned into hysteria, passionately spiraling into doomsday scenarios about Antarctic glaciers like a weekend documentary suddenly made her the ultimate authority. Keep in mind, this is the top Democrat on the Appropriations Committee. Once the chair finally stepped in and reminded Rosa of the actual rules, Zeldin got the floor back and used it to lay out even more evidence that directly challenged her claims. And that is when things really went off the rails. Just take a look.
So you don't have an answer.
No, let me
move on
answer.
to a
Oh,
second
please,
one.
let me answer your question. Can I answer? Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chairman. So it's interesting. You're saying that we're letting polluters off the hook.
Yeah.
Is that your position? Yeah, okay. So since January 20th, in the first year of the Trump administration, we sentenced more criminal defendants, 100 compared to the 91 of the last year of the Biden administration.
God, that's
We
all-
obtained far more in criminal fees and restitution. In the last year of the Biden administration, the number is 57.7 million. In the first year of the Trump administration, it's 561.9 million. We also have obtained far more in criminal forfeiture. So in the last year of the Biden administration, they obtained, get this, $0.1 million. $0.1 million. You know how much we did?
Oh, tell us.
$1.1 billion.
Tell us. How many of those projects did
billion
Biden
dollars.
start for you? Okay?
You want to make the claim that we're just giving up on the work of the Enforcement and Compliance Office.
Glyphosate.
Is that your question? I'd say don't. If your cup was filled with glyphosate, I'm telling you as the administrator of EPA, don't drink it.
Thank you so much for agreeing to what we need to do.
I don't know what the
all
question was.
along.
You're holding up a cup saying glyphosate.
You know,
Don't drink it. Don't inject it.
maybe you should try doing that. Okay? Excuse me.
If any Republican had said that last line, you'd already know the media would be running nonstop coverage, demanding resignations, and calling it unacceptable conduct. But when it comes to Rosa, that same standard somehow disappears. And this exchange might seem entertaining, but it really exposes a much bigger problem. Too many lawmakers are more focused on performance than public service. Instead of serious debate, it becomes about creating viral moments, grabbing headlines, and turning outrage into fundraising. That's the real game for far too many in DC right now. So, with the midterms getting closer, make your vote matter. Because if things are ever going to change, it starts with each and every one of us.